fellow Rotarians and guests. It's my honor to introduce Katelyn Zeedyk again to you. She was here a year or so ago, the year she was the 4-H queen. And I think this is Zane's program, but since he's not a Rotarian, he always says, would you introduce her? So yes, I have the privilege of introducing Katelyn Zeedyk, and we welcome her mother, Susie, and her grandparents, Roger and Lois Zeedyk. She's going to talk today about slideshow on her trip to Ireland.
Okay, well, the light's coming on. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. How many of you guys have traveled out of the States?
You want that other one on state?
I've been to Indiana.
Out of the United States. One? Two? Yeah, three? Well, I had the privilege of going out of the United States for my first time back in May with my ag club. I go to school at Lincoln Land Community College in Springfield, Illinois. And every other year, since it's a 2-year community college, they are doing out of the United States tours, so international tours at different countries to learn about their ag practices. And we were the first group to get to do this, and we took a tour to Ireland, and we were there for 10 days. So we went to school and loaded a charter bus and headed off to Chicago for our flight. We stopped at Wally's, which is just a glorified gas station for snacks, refreshment break, and everything before we made it to Chicago for our flight. We were there for quite a few hours just waiting to get through customs and everything to give ourselves time, and then we finally boarded the plane at 9 p.m. So we did a night flight. We were offered supper, and that is the plain food we were offered. And I'm a picky eater, and I will tell you that I did not like this food. I gave it to the girl next to me. Anyway, so we landed in Dublin. Then
Larry wants to know what that is.
that's like chicken and rice and a biscuit.
Okay.
Wasn't too good. I wanted to buy some plain food. Bring your own snacks is what I'll say. Yeah. But we landed in Dublin around 10 o'clock the next morning, so Ireland is 6 hours ahead, so we did not get our night's sleep unless you wanted to sleep on an airplane, which is very uncomfortable, so for 7.5 hours I did not sleep, because I just couldn't. So once we got to Dublin, we boarded a charter bus and headed south to Kilkenny. This just goes to show you the houses, how close to the roads they are. They are right on top of the roads. That is a child's backyard pretty much to play in. So they have gates everywhere to make sure they don't get out. And then that is the charter bus going through the streets of Kilkenny. They are very narrow, and driving is opposite that of the US. So instead of driving on the right side of the road, you're on the left side of the road, and the driver is on the opposite side of the vehicle. And then that is us touring around Kilkenny as we were able to tour through the little city before and after our tour began. Our tour began at the Kilkenny Castle. It was built in the 12th century by the Butler family, and it has been occupied by them until 1935 when it was turned over to the government. It has been refurbished by the government and is now part of the National Art Gallery. And this castle is probably the one of the most visited ones in all of Ireland. This is just the front of it, and we were able to do our own self-guided tour through it. And this is the backyard garden, whatever you would like to call it, through the window of the top of the castle, and then the fountain out there once we got closer to it. And then that is just me and some of my friends off the judging team, and then also all of the girls out of the ag club that went on this trip at the castle. And in the town of Kilkenny, we stopped on the street to take a picture.
Were boys allowed to go on the trip?
Oh yeah, you'll see him in a little bit. We just wanted all the girls' picture. And then that night we went to the Huban Hotel, and we ate supper each night at the hotels we were at. So we were given a 3-course meal that we were able to choose anything from. And I will tell you that the dessert at every hotel was the best out of the entire meal, because I'm a dessert person. But that was ice cream that night. And I will also say, going back, that the Irish do enjoy their carbs. We were given 2 different kinds of potatoes with each meal. So it was either mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes, or cooked potatoes. Each meal you were given 2 different kinds. But the next day, we went to the Kilkenny Mart. So a lot of us were tired, so we were kind of like dozing off on the bus ride to get to the Mart. And when and like we kind of woke up, we realized that we were going back through the little streets of Kilkenny and not at our destination yet after an hour. And I look out the window and realize we're passing our hotel, and we just went in a giant circle because our tour guide missed the exit to go to the mart. So we just went in a giant circle, and we're an hour late to our first stop of the day. But once we reached the mart, we were able to tour the auction site, and it was very similar to auction sites that we have here in the US today. You still have the seats, the auction block, the animals come in. We were also able to go out back and stand up on like the stairs and everything above the animals, and they auctioned off sheep that day and also dairy cows. The mart was established as a cooperative to provide a viable marketplace for farmers. It attracts up to 1,000 farmers, families, and dealers each week. We are also able to talk to these farmers about what breeds they brought in and why they were selling their animals. But then that down there on the bottom, that is our entire club group that went. So the boys are in that picture there. Our next stop was Dave Collins Beef Farm. So we drove out of the city for this one. We went into the country and up a stone road, up a hill a little ways. So you can kind of see the scenery around it. We are definitely up on a hill, so you can look down in the valley there in all these pictures. So he raises about 80 pedigree Angus cattle on roughly 100 acres. They go by hectaacres here in Ireland, so I kind of converted this stuff back to what we know here in the US. He sells most of his males and some of his heifers for breeding stock, and then the rest of his heifers he uses for finished beef. He prefers the natural AI breeding over artificial insemination, and one of his bulls is the most valued herd sires in all of Ireland, but we were unable to see him, but we were given a flyer catalog with all the herd sires in it, and we were able to look at him in there. So then that is just our group, and he's in the picture too, him and his daughter were able to get into the picture with us, and at each of our tour stops, we gave the people who gave us the tour a goodie bag filled with different stuff from our college back in Springfield. And then at the hotel that night, that was our supper plus ice cream again. I didn't bore you with another picture of ice cream. So the next day, we went to the Rock of Cashel. So by this point, with the jet lag and everything, and the time difference, a lot of us were really tired. And this was more a longer drive to get to the Rock of Cashel from Kilkenny as we were moving to Cork. And so a lot of us fell asleep. And when we woke up, we realized he drove us an hour in the wrong direction. So as you can see, we were in Kilkenny here. We ended up here, and we needed to be here. So we woke up and went back to sleep because we had a long time to get back to where we needed to go.
They never heard of GPS.
Well, that's when our advisor took charge of getting the right directions for our tour guide.
They brought their own tour guide over from America, I guess.
Maybe it's a woman driver.
No, it was a male. He wasn't even from Ireland. He was from Scotland, I think, so not even from Ireland. But anyway, we finally made it to the church, and as you can see, it was absolutely beautiful. It is located on top of the hill, and it has a political and religious background, as it was the high stone and castle of kings from the 4th century until it got turned over to the clergy in 1101-ish, somewhere around there. That is when it became St. Patrick's Church, and legend associates this rock with St. Patrick, but the name comes from the Cecil meaning stone fort. So Brian Boru was crowned King of Munster here in 977, and then he became High King of Ireland in 1002, and he was probably the last king to occupy this stone fort. So here's just more pictures of the fort. So this is this used to be, the middle picture was a cross, and it says if you can wrap your arms around the base of this cross, you'll never get a toothache again. Some of the kids tried it, weren't able to do it. But the cross is also up on a little bit of a concrete platform, and it is said if you can hop around on your left foot 9 times around this platform, you'll be married in less than a year. So one of my teammates decided to do this, and she did it in 7, so we are waiting to see if she'll be married or at least engaged in less than a year. But then you can see over there, that is the valley right up off the hill. There's cattle down there. And they told us that it's probably some of the most fertile in all Ireland, as they have water just directly under there. That is the inside of the church. You can see all the architecture and designs, as it was also a cathedral they used for worship. And the picture on the right, that was the actual paintings of inside of the church that they found and were able to uncover. It's closed off so you can't like see it or like get close to it and touch it, but that is what it would have looked like back in the day. So there's also all these little faces, if you can see them all around in the church and the different structures. It's just kind of something to look for in people that were there. Those are their faces carved into them. And then that graveyard is still active to this day. They have about 5 more people on a list that can be buried there, and then it will be closed off and nobody else can be buried there. And then those are just some snails and slugs we found going around in the church that we'd never seen. Then that is just some of us girls outside of the castle again, and then we were able to go down into where the choirmen's house, where they were supposed to stay, and that is the seal that they used when they went to different places to buy food or supplies that they needed instead of money. And then that on the top corner is just a picture of the inside of the house and a tapestry that was hung in there. And then that is us on our way. Most of us are passed out, but I decided to take a picture. Our next stop was the Blarney Castle. From our mishaps of this morning, since being an hour late, we weren't able to tour everything that was offered to us here in Cork. But this castle was built in 1446 by Dermot McCarthy. So we decided to go up into this tower, and that is my roommate Hadley. She wanted a picture by the picture that shows you all the different levels in this tower that you can visit and we were able to see and go through. And then that is out one of the windows. They had cattle right down in the valley, which there's cattle everywhere here. There's not many farm ground. And then that is the city that you can see from up in the window in this tower. So once we climbed up there, you are able to kiss the legendary stone, Blarney Stone, to gain the gift of gab. So most of us kissed this stone. Not sure if they sanitized it afterwards or anything, but we were all kissing it anyway. So that is just us on our way down through the tower. We stopped to take a picture, and then that is my ag club again. We took pictures at each stop, so we have our banners usually in them, but we weren't able to take our banners through this one.
Is that guy falling down a well or what?
He's actually holding me from falling down like you can see down, like there's a wire, like a bar there, so.
Oh, that's the stone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, y'all have to like bend over it and kiss it upside down. Like I wasn't afraid of heights, but some of my teammates were afraid of heights, and so they were kind of scared about it, but he's like holding us there, so we weren't gonna fall.
And that's supposed to be lucky?
Yes. Yep. I'm not sure if it's worked yet, but we're gonna see.
Oh, you're here.
Yeah, I'm here. So, this is just me and my teammates again, looking over the valley, and then at the ag club taking a picture with the tower. So after this stop, we drove around Blarney and Cork for about an hour trying to figure out how to get to our next destination because the roads are so narrow and our charter bus was about 2 or 3 feet longer than a normal charter bus to fit us all, and the bridge was out, so we were actually unable to get to Tim O'Leary's dairy farm. But we offered to walk, but apparently it was uphill through woods over a river, and it was over a 30-minute walk, so we were not able to do this tour. So we just went back into Blarney and went through a couple of the stores to get some souvenirs and do some shopping. And then we spent the night at the Oral House Hotel and learned that cheesecake is very different from what is here. It is more spongy and doesn't like have the same taste. But that's the cheesecake on the end. Our next stop the next day was Castle Core Potatoes, and we wanted to bring this old man home with us to raise his potatoes here. He loved talking about his operation as he started it. When he was a boy, he just loved talking. He wanted us to know everything about his farm and operation. He even took mud off the ground and started drawing on a concrete wall how his farming goes in a field and how he explained how his equipment worked. This is just some of the stuff inside of it and him explaining what the potatoes are supposed to look like. But they are proud growers and owners of quality fresh potatoes and onions for the Irish market. It's a family-run and owned business by Ned and Edward English. They have like 500 acres of potatoes, 200 acres of onions, and 1,300 acres of cereal. And this is all done over a span of 65 acres. In Ireland, they have like hedge bushes and stone things to separate each field. So their fields are not as big as ours here in the United States, and they are very rocky. But with all the different towns and stuff, they are not able to have all their farm ground in one spot, so it is all over the span and radius of 65 acres, which you can tell is a lot for them.
So what's the round?
That's
piece
just
of
how they
machinery?
like sort through the potatoes and put them in the packages.
You
We
do
weren't
by
able to watch
size?
it work. What?
By size?
Yeah. Yep. And then this is him. He has pictures of each of the times that the operation grew and expanded. He enjoyed showing us these pictures and explaining when each barn got put up and how the houses changed over time. And it was really just interesting to see because we also did that, like we do that with our family farms here in the States. And one of the quotes that he said to us that has stuck with me is that people will walk with you, but not for you. So that's just kind of stuck. Our next stop, and probably my favorite one, was the Macroom buffalo. They are the only water buffalo in all of Ireland. And so I know some of these slides are a little blurry, but they're fact slides, and I have some of the facts written down. But this farm was established to produce buffalo mozzarella cheese, and it has also spread and blossomed to creating more cheese to produce for Ireland. So Johnny Lynch, the owner, he has around 200 head of water buffalo, and it's on a 150-acre farm. And he currently milks over 75 of them, but breeds them and has them calving all year round to be able to produce the milk to create the cheese. So how many of you think that these water buffalo produce more milk than cows here in the United States? Yeah? 2 of you? Okay. Well, they actually produce about 25% of what a cow here in the United States would produce. So that's 8 to 10 liters roughly.
Why
A
does
day, that's a day.
Excuse me for interrupting you,
Yep.
then why does this guy continue if they're not as productive as the American cows? That's the only reason I said yes, because I thought otherwise, why would he?
Yeah, so like he brought them, so some of them are Italian buffalo, like the oldest ones on the farm are, but he just wanted to do something different in Ireland compared to everybody else doing the dairy cows, and it's kind of a statement piece. So his cheese and production has also blossomed. He's also the face of like the cheese in Ireland. He's more on the market than some of the dairy cows.
Is that cheese, is it in great demand, or is it more of a novelty? Or?
It's kind of, yeah, novelty. Like we were able to try some of it. It's a little different, but it's fairly similar. I wasn't a big fan of some of the fluffier ones, but I did like the fried mozzarella cheese the best. But their annual yield is roughly like 2,500 liters approximately, give or take a little bit. But a cow's milk has 3% more water than what a buffalo's does, but the buffalo milk has 4 to 5% more fat and 1% more protein. So that can also be a factor in there as well. The calves in there, so they are calving year round obviously, and they have automated milk machines, so the calves also have chips in their ear, so the computer reads it and knows how much milk that calf is still supposed to get throughout the day, so they don't get too much or too little. And then those are some of the moms. They are very friendly. They came right down the path and right into their new pasture, and then the next group came right down the path and went right into the barn to be milked. We were actually able to go into the parlor and watch the buffalo get milked, and it was very similar to what we have here in the United States, as you can see. The teats were dipped before they were put on. They did not dip afterwards, which I know is a difference here than what we have here. And I think I have one more. Yep, that's just us waiting. They did do biosecurity, so we had to walk over a soap pad. That's also a big difference. The United States has more biosecurity measures, wearing boots, doing more of the soaping pads. Here we just walked on a soaping pad and were able to go wherever we wanted. Then that's also another picture of one of the moms and their horns that they have. And then that night we stayed at the Sneed Hotel. Out our window you could see where the Atlantic Ocean came up and into inland, and we watched the tide go in and out, which was really cool because I had never seen the ocean before. And then we also took about a 10-minute walk into town. It was later in the evening, so some of the stores and stuff weren't open, so my friends wanted to hit some bars because the drinking age there is 18, so they thought it was the greatest thing in the world. I personally did not drink. I was talking to some of the farmers there, so it was kind of nice to be able to go out and talk to people that we weren't, say, forced to talk to on a tour as we would, and just learn. Like, we talked to a sheep farmer, and so I was able to talk to him as I raise sheep on our farm here in Ohio. And so it was nice to kind of compare and see the differences than what they had. So the next day, we went around the Ring of Kerry. most of the morning to early afternoon. We went around this 100-mile ring, and it has some of the finest scenery you'll see in all of Ireland. It has the highest point of the mountain right around this ring, and it is also a national park. I had tons of pictures from this day, but I was not able to obviously put them all on the slideshow, but they all kind of came together as it was just scenery. But this is Ladies View, and it boasts some of the finest scenery in Europe and provides insight into the ancient heritage of Ireland. Next, we visited and got off at the Torque Waterfall. It is 18 meters high and cascades through the Wooden Friars Glen. So me and some of my teammates were able to climb up onto these rocks and take pictures with it. There was also a staircase that allowed you to climb up to the top of the waterfall, but with time we weren't able to go all the way up. So this on the right just is like the first level that you can get to, and you're able to see out the water and like the mountains in the distance, and so it was just a really cool picture. We also passed through Killoran, which is home of the ancient Celtic festival that brings in a ton of people each year, and it's when a goat is crowned king of the village. We also passed this church, and I just took a picture of it because it was really giant and massive, and I just wanted you guys to see the size of it and the architecture around it. And then that is also us at Ladies View taking a picture, and then us at the waterfall. That's me and my roommates from college. That is also some of us at the waterfall, and that was also my first time seeing the Atlantic Ocean. I haven't even seen the Pacific Ocean, but seeing the Atlantic Ocean for the first time was really interesting. You're able to see the coastal right under it, the greenery under the sea. It was also raining and sprinkling around a little bit, so we weren't able to get out and go very far to like look around it, but we were able to get some pictures there. So later in the afternoon, we went back through the ring a little bit and stopped at Kazane Sheep Farm. Here we were able to see a sheepdog demonstration, and it is a family traditional run farm which has approximately 1,000 head of mountain sheep and lambs. So John Kazane, the owner of the farm, he's 5th generation, and he showed us how he moved these sheep around and rounds them up with his working sheepdogs, which are border collies. So they had 4 or 5 border collies on the farm, but we only watched one of them work. He was able to move them through all these terrains and use different whistles that are specific to this dog. So that is the sheep up close, and then he also ran them up that bank there with all those rocks. And it was really interesting to see how versatile those sheep can be along with the dogs, as I know our sheep here at home probably could not do that, and I would be scared if they started doing that, just for safety reasons and hooves and feet. But that is one of the babies in the barn that we were able to see, and then that is coming out of their driveway just to show you guys the mountain, how those sheep are able to just stand on the side of it or be ran through it by the sheepdogs. We ended the night at the Sneem Hotel again. That is actually lamb in the middle, and my favorite part of that was the dessert. I'm not a big lamb fan. The next day, to get to where we were going, we had to go on a ferry. So we bus north to County Clare and cross the Shannon River by this ferry. So as you can see, that's where the ferry backs up in the far right picture. That is the ferry starting to back up, and then that is when our charter bus was able to park and stop on the ferry. So we were able to get off of our bus and go up on the ledges of the ferry and take pictures while we were out going about. It actually moved fairly fast, which I was surprised by. So we rode over this estuary which connects Banner County of Clare to the Kingdom of Kerry. And then when we got to the other side, we had to get back on the bus, obviously, but we were able to still look out through the windows and see out into the water, and we were actually able to witness 2 dolphins, which was kind of cool. But we continued driving, and we ended up at the Cliffs of Moher. These cliffs are roughly 8 kilometers long and stand 230 meters above the ground at their highest point. So you were able to walk all along that, and then there's even more on the other side. And then that tower there is called O'Brien's Tower. It stands on these cliffs. And from these cliffs, you're able to see Aran Islands, Galloway Bay, and the 12 Pins. You're also able to walk in the other direction. You can see the Atlantic Ocean coming up, and you can hear it. It's just very peaceful. There was wire, I guess, or like the rocks, so you didn't go far enough over the cliffs because people have done that and gone over per se, but we did not do that. We were all still alive. And then that is us just taking a picture at the ferry while we were waiting. And then that is us also at one of the stops taking pictures, and then after lunch at the Cliffs of Moher, we are all sitting around and talking. So we traveled through the Burren, which is famous for its lunar-like landscape, and it has over 20 different types of orchids growing that grow wild, and they were kind of taking over the vegetation there. Our tour guide said they would probably have to start cutting them down, but there's a lot of them. So in total that day, we were on the bus for roughly 5.5 hours, which was a really long day, but we did able to get some sleep. But the next day, we went to Fernville Connemara Pony Stud, and here is run by Jimmy Conovan and his son, where they specialize in this Connemara pony breed because of its versatile and gentle disposition, trackability, sensibility, and willingness. So they have on average 200 mares that are studded at Fernville, and they also provide 24-hour AI service. This isn't their only farm. This is the farm that we were just able to stop at and see. So those are just some of his mares that he has there, and you can also see him there in the picture. He was also very willing to tell us everything he knew about these horses and his operation. And then that is just the inside of the barn that they have the horses in. Our next stop was Connemara Avalon, and here it was an aquatic culture company on the west of Ireland that is 100% dedicated to the cultivation of abalone. And we were offered to try these different types of seaweeds that they raised here. I personally did not do that. After I felt them and watched some of my club members do it and spit it right out, I was like, no thank you. I will just try the cookies that had ingredients from these seaweeds and different things. And it just tasted like a zucchini bread, really. But it was pretty good. The cookies were. I don't know about the seaweed. But these are the abalone that they raise here. They are born and reared in state-of-the-art aquatic culture farms on the austere rocky shoreline where the Atlantic Ocean meets the Galloway Bay. And that is just inside one of the greenhouses. They don't have the roofing, but that is where they raise these things, which was very different than what we were expecting to see. From there, we continued on to Cowmore Abbey. It's located at the base of Dutch Rock Mountain on the northern shore in the heart of the Connemara Mountains. So that is the Abbey down there, and then that is just the inside when we went through and toured it a little bit. That was just one of the pictures I took. And then that is me and some of the girls down in the gardens. So here, Cowmore is the home to a community of nuns in the Benedict order. They moved here in 1920 after their abbey in Belgium was destroyed in World War I. You were able to tour this abbey, a Gothic church, and the gardens. So that is a little bit of the fairy garden that was near the gardens, and then those are two pictures of the different gardens. And then that night we went to the Ardillian Hotel. That is just one of the things that we ate. And then we also went on a 1.5-mile walk into the city. So it was over like 45 minutes to get there because we decided to walk. But that's just a picture to show you like there's people everywhere on this sidewalk and the buildings are right next to each other. The next day was probably one of my other favorite days. We toured Olivia Hines Beef and Sheep Farm. She's the only owner of this place, and it is over 2 farms, so she has to trailer back and forth her sheep and cattle, depending on what time of the year it is, so that is why this is her only job. She has the help of her niece and nephew sometimes throughout the year and their friends, but she lands about 250 ewes that are either Charolais, Chevy, or Suffolk in the month of February, and she calves 70-some head of cattle that are either Charolais, Angus, Limousin, or Simmentals in the month of March. She's also a new member of the Future Beef program, and she does all of this on 65 hectares. So we also walked up about 3/4 of a mile to the top of the hill that their house and barns are on the bottom of the hill. So we walked up the hill, and we were able to see down all of the pasture grounds that they have and how they're blocked off with different hedges and wiring. And then that is just a picture of us with her and her niece and then some of the cattle that they run. After we walked up the hill, we went back down, and her and her family were very hospitable. They allowed us into their house to use the restroom, wash our hands. But do any of you guys know or have eaten a scone? Yep, okay. For those of you that don't, it's pretty much just a glorified biscuit in my opinion, with some jelly on top, but they are very good, and we were also able to talk her mother into giving us the recipe. She didn't quite remember it, well, we were able to record it from her. She just said it, and we had a recording of it, So we're working on writing that down when we go back to school. And the fact is, she had never given anybody this recipe, so we were the first ones, and they do a lot of tours there. But it was just very nice to see how hospitable these people in Ireland are with all the people they have coming in and out of their homes and giving them tours. Then we went to Clonmacnoise, which was another historical site here in Ireland. It was founded by Saint Cyrian in the mid-6th century on the eastern bank of River Shannon. The site includes a ruin of a cathedral, which we are standing in front of there, 7 churches dated between the 10th and 13th century, 2 round towers and 3 high crosses, and an early collection of early Christian grave sites from Western Europe. So this is one of the round towers, and that is just used to look out from because they were right next to the river to make sure nobody was coming to attack them when they were back in the day. And then these are some of the grave slabs and sites that we were able to see in one of the Celtic crosses that was redone. The original is inside the visitor center that we were able to see after this tour. And then that is also a whispering arch. So if you have 2 people, one stands on one side and one on the other, if you can whisper into it and it'll go around the top of the arch and you'll be able to hear it from the other side. It's only, I think once she said, 1 of 7 in the world. That is one of the other churches that we were able to see. And the other round tower, it is said that that is the top of the first round tower that I showed you. They cut it off and moved it to the other side to be able to have 2 watchtowers. And then that is just inside of one of the churches with more of the grave slabs. And then that is the graveyard. They have 1 more person that needs to be buried here, and then it will be closed off again. And then that is the original Celtic cross that is inside the visitor center. And then we stayed the night at Clayton Hotel in Leopardstown. And our final day, we went to EPIC, which is the Irish Immigration Museum. Here, we uncovered the story of the Irish immigrants and how it shaped the world. This picture is kind of hard to see, but it shows the evolution of boats and ships and even airplanes to what they are today. And then that is just one of the corridors that we had to go down and some of the pictures from what is inside the museum. So when touring this museum, we realized that the immigration was not about what the people left behind, but what they brought with them. So this is just some of more of the stuff inside the museum that we were able to look at and see, like the evolution of football, for example. That is more of some of the hallways and corridors that we had to go down, and then it was also a video of one of the men coming from where they were on a boat here to Ireland, and then how nowadays how we would travel through airplane to do this. So we are back in Dublin now, in Ireland's capital city. We toured O'Connell Street, Phoenix Park, and Leinster House thanks to our step-on guide, Dennis Scully. So that is the capital in Dublin, and some of the bridges that connect North and South Dublin together. Our next stop was Guinness. It's at the St. James Gate, and it is the world-famous brewery. So that is the papers that they signed to be able to do this. Here we were able to go through the 7 levels of this storehouse and see each of the different processes on how they create this beer through the brewing, smoking, mixing, all this stuff. So these are just different pictures from each of the different levels. And some of the quotes I took pictures of. And then we ended up in the gravity bar, which is at the top of this storehouse. It's 7 levels high, and it gives a 360 view of all of Dublin. So that is looking out from one of the views into the city of Dublin. At the start of our tour, we were giving a voucher, a free voucher to get 1 free pint of Guinness beer. I am not a drinker, but I did try it, and it was not good in my opinion. I don't know if any of you guys like it, but it was not good. Do not advise it, but you can try it. I just did not like it. The foam was, if I could get past the foam, then, but no, I did not care for it. But then we headed back down and stopped at one of the little cafes, and between 6 of us, we ate that, and it was very delicious. But that is then also outside the storehouse. It shows you the different levels, and then inside where we bought some souvenirs and clothing. And then that is me and some of my friends taking some pictures inside the storehouse. I promise she doesn't have a long arm. I sent some of these pictures to my dad, and he's like, man, she's got a long arm. I said, no, it's just a 0.5 picture. She doesn't have that long of an arm. But then we headed on to Kilmainham Goal. and it is a former prison that was open from 1796 until 1924. And it's now a museum run by the Office of Public Works, which is an agency of the government of Ireland. So many revolutionaries, including the leaders of the 1916 Easter Rising, were imprisoned here and executed in the prison by the order of the UK government. So as you can see, this is the outside of the museum, and then right once you walk in was the church where they were able to go to church, and then that is one of the doors into the cell of this museum, or prison, not museum. But we were on the bottom floor of this prison, and that is just up above the gravel gates. There's another whole row of cells up there. And then this was the main part of the museum, so it's 3 levels, and we were told that they were also able to shoot movies in here, so a couple different movies have been shot in this prison. And then over the cell doors, there's some inscriptions or engraves in them of the people that stayed there, either from places for what they were known for, why they were there, or what they represented, or a religion that they were stuck in there for. This is also a painting of what one of the people in this cell did while they were just sitting in this cell per se. That is another entrance into this prison, and we are told the story of these 2 people that were in this prison that were married and were only able to stay together for a couple of hours before the husband had to be taken away and executed. And then the wife was brought back into the prison a few months, or I think years later maybe, because of something she did. But that was just a story that we were told about and then able to see up in the museum afterwards. Then that night, to finish off in Ireland, we went to Mary Plowboy's traditional Irish night. So we weren't really knowing what to expect from an Irish night. We came to this house restaurant type looking thing. We walked in, then we were led up some stairs, and then we ended up in this the upstairs room. There's 4 long tables that we were seated at with other people there that were coming on tours from different places. And then I just took a picture of the 10 rules of this public house because it made some of us laugh while we were waiting. But that is a picture of some of the singers that were playing music and singing for us throughout the night. And then that is the meal that we were served. It was very good. That is actually the vegetable soup. It's not actually, like, it wasn't what you would think, like vegetable soup, you think of the chopped vegetables. This was more of a soup, I guess you could say. But then they also had dancers that came out and danced for us. And I can tell you that my ad club was the most lively in this building, because we would stand up for these guys and start clapping. We were even dancing with them. And everybody around us was just laughing and smiling. So we were even told afterwards that we made it more fun for them, which was really nice. But then, so we headed back to our hotel that night, and it was our second to last night with some of the sophomores off of my judging team. So we decided to try and pull an all-nighter to try and be able to stay up on the plane, or to fall asleep on the plane ride, and just to spend our last time with some of my teammates. We made it to 4 in the morning, so we got 2 hours of sleep as we had to be up at 6 to leave for the airport. And I can tell you that I did not sleep at all on this 8.5-hour plane ride. It did not work, but I went through a lot of movies, which was kind of fun, I guess. But that is a picture of our ad club with our charter bus driver, tour guide, you could say. And then that is also us when we arrived in Chicago waiting for our luggage. So we got to Chicago, drove back to Springfield, and was home about 6 in the evening. But this was just an amazing and unforgettable experience that I will never be able to do again, and that will happen only once in my lifetime. But so if any of you guys are even thinking about going out of the country or visiting Ireland, I highly suggest this. So do you have any questions? Because that is the end.
Did a great job.